It's 2019 and maybe you're considering getting into VR using your PC or a standalone device, and I'm going to give you a little bit of advice based on some experience I have, some information I have, and just to give you a general overview of why I'm thinking the Valve Index, which is coming out at the end of June, may be the headset for you. Or there is an alternative which I'll also mention. But let's consider that we're going for a PC VR experience. Exclusively going with that, I'll give you a reference point as to where I'm coming from, what I've learned, some mistakes I've made, and why I'm considering the Index as an upgrade option. And to help me with this, I have some valuable, extremely detailed handwritten notes. Okay, so I come from the UK, so that's relevant for a reason I'll point out shortly. Another thing to point out, as you may have gathered from the fact I'm wearing spectacles, I'm a glasses wearer, but also my IPD, the interpupillary distance, the distance between the centre point of each eye, is outside the standard 63mm, which is a default for Windows MR headsets, the Rift S, which has just come out, any headset which doesn't have a manually adjustable IPD. Okay, so why is that relevant? Essentially, it comes down to this. Unless you can align the lenses in a headset perfectly with your eyes, there's a compromise immediately. Okay. And another thing to consider with headsets, and the reason I'll mention this is for convenience's sake, which is a good and key factor to take into consideration when you're buying or viewing to buy a VR headset, is how easy is it to use. So, my first mainstream VR headset is this, a Windows MR headset from HP. Now, as you can tell, no headphones or mic built on, so what do I have to go through with this? I have to take into account also no IPD adjustment, those lenses are fixed. What I have to do is have a headset like this, a connector, which in my case splits into two individual parts, so that'll go into the headset. Now I'm going to enjoy a VR experience. Okay, so let's put that round my neck, put the headset on. Okay, let's do that. And of course this part here will be connected to a wire going to the PC. And let's get that on there. Oh, wire's out of the way. There you go. Okay, let's get the mic pulled out. All adjusted, ready to go. Wouldn't it be easy if it was just one item? Of course it would. And that's one of the reasons I'm considering the upgrade. That and the fact I don't like to take my glasses off as I take a headset off. So, a headset with built-in audio, built-in microphones, adjustable IPD, all of these things would be perfect. Now, I mentioned I'm from the UK. If you're in America, you'll have bypassed one of these problems to do with IPD, built-in audio, built-in mic, with a Windows MR headset, because in America, Samsung released the Odyssey and the Odyssey Plus. And I've been turned against Samsung as a result, because they didn't release it anywhere aside from America. So, here am I with the headset, which, because of my IPD, which is approximately 71mm, not 63, is quite a distance outside of the 63mm standard. So, that results in a compromised optical experience. And by that I mean playing a game like Audio Shield, which I enjoy. That's tolerable for up to 20 minutes or so, maybe a little longer, because that has large abstract shapes and you don't really need to concentrate on detail. Elite Dangerous, on the other hand, where you'll be glancing around a cockpit trying to read text. That's where a headset like the Windows MR appealed to me over the original Oculus Rift, because they had a higher resolution, and resolution is an important factor to take into account. But the problem there was because that IPD adjustment wasn't available, and because Samsung didn't release their headset over here and even give me the option, like so many people in Europe, Australia, of being able to buy that headset, I only had the closest comparable compromised experience, which is enough to put many people off VR. Okay, so that's not so ideal. So, the Valve Index coming out at the end of June. So, imminent as I record this. Let's have a look at these notes again. Now, one of the negatives I've already mentioned there, the Samsung device was guilty of it. The Index is only available in America and Europe, Australia, Canada. So many of those places simply won't have access to the Index, at least initially. So, if you're looking at getting what should be one of the newest and greatest headsets, we hope, you'll have to look. Okay. Also, there's the item of cost. Now, in America, it's the full package, $1,000. Over here in the UK, £919 for the full package. I've reserved mine, but I was in the second wave, so I'm looking at a reservation. There's a shipping date at the end of September, so that's not quite so ideal. But still, I'm hoping it'll be worth it. But there is a competitor, potentially, on the horizon. And news is due to hit within the next week or so about that. And apparently that's a change to the original spec of the device, which was unexpected. Now, the competitor is not going to be the HP Reverb. I'm automatically omitting that, simply because I realise, having experienced headsets without an IPD adjustment, that if you're outside of that 63mm ideal, and I believe 2mm is approximately the variable tolerance where it's still okay, so 65 to 61 you're probably okay, 63mm is the sweet spot, you'd be okay with a Rift S or a Windows MR headset, anything like that. And as long as you're okay with the tracking that they provide, that's great. Personally speaking, Windows MR tracking for me has not been a problem. But then again, I've got the seeded experience of Elite Dangerous, Audio Shield, which tracks the controllers well enough. There's been nothing to push it to extremes. But price, I mentioned price. The Index at those prices for the full kit is very expensive, especially compared to something like the Rift S at £400 or $400 plus taxes. So, if you're outside of the IPD norm, or 63mm base point as I'll refer to it, then you're going to have to spend more money. The HP Reverb is out of the picture as well because that has no IPD adjustment. High resolution of 2160 by 2160 per eye is a fantastic boon for people who are into items like DCS or racing sims, cockpit sim people who like legibility. They're going to enjoy that headset if they fit into that baseline prime. But £919, looking at it from my perspective in the UK, is it worth it? I wish the base stations were cheaper. They individually, for a pair which you'll need, are about £260 of the cost. Now, this is the second iteration of the base stations, and they're meant to be simpler devices than the original ones. Should have been cheaper to manufacture and therefore cheaper to sell, but the cost isn't going to be cheaper, so compromised. Do I need sub-millimetre tracking? No. But these base stations will give it. It's a step further than I need for tracking accuracy, but I'll take it. Fair enough. I can live with that. And hopefully that's something which will be usable with any further headsets, which also rely on the Lighthouse system. The inside-out cameras from the headset tracking of Windows MR, the Rift S, the Oculus Quest as a portable device. These things have got good, though compromised. However, the one thing they do benefit in is simplicity. Plug it in, simple setup, you're done. the base station tracking of the original Vive, the Index. Okay, you're going to need to wall mount, or at least mount in opposing corners fairly solidly, two devices which then you would have to take away with you to another area if you wanted to set up again. And yet again, each of these base stations needs a power point all of its own, so if you can set it up, it's great. If you can't, it's not the most portable or easy solution for VR on the go, so it's probably a non-starter. If you have dedicated play space, you're probably alright. That's where I'm coming from, so I'm going to be okay with that. That resolution. Okay, 1440 by 1600. Now, the Samsung Odyssey, the Vive Pro, and now this headset have that. And I'm not going to be one pushing for a higher resolution quite yet. And the one thing that's overlooked when it comes to the resolution wars is you need an amount of power to drive all those extra pixels. The Rift S, going for a higher resolution than the original Rift, has decided to drop the refresh rate to 80 Hz. So, if you're refreshing at 80 Hz instead of 90 Hz, you have more leeway. I'm happy with the resolution as it stands of 1440, 1600 with the Rift, because it has those refresh rates which are 80 Hz, 90 Hz. 120 Hz is the standard, which is meant to apparently provide a greater sense of presence, along with LCDs which decay their pixels quicker, so you get less blur, so it's a sharper image, refreshed quicker. And as you get a more powerful GPU to power it, maybe you can push that 120 Hz in more games. 144 Hz experimental could become the standard in the future with more powerful graphics cards. As it stands, I have GTX 1070. I'll be able to run this with a GTX 1070 and with the less demanding games at higher refresh rates. And as I upgrade, I can upgrade the refresh rate or the resolution I've got. I think that's a more viable solution than many people have thought about. If you're trying to run 2160 by 2160 pixels at a high refresh rate like 90 Hz, you're looking at one of the RTX cards. Another expense to add, so I'm not so sure about that. A slight downside about the Index could be its greatest asset as well. It's supported. What were called the Knuckles controllers are now the Index controllers, and they track finger presence. They strap onto your hand so you can release your grip and they stay in place. If things are developed to take into account these controllers, then it could provide some great exclusives. But at least at the bare minimum, you still have the typical grip button, trigger button, trackpad, buttons and joystick combo, which is similar to so many of the other control mechanisms already out there. So you could use that as a standard and default as it stands. The scalable refresh rate. I've mentioned that. See, I'm checking my notes again. You can tell every time I look down. Here's notes. Comfort and convenience though. I touched upon that very briefly when I put the headset on and then rather clunkily tried to take it off. Having headphones and a microphone already built in, such a benefit. An all-in-one solution. Put it on, take it off, no fannying around with any extra stuff, it's all good to go. By all reports, on the first release of NDA, in advance of the official release of the Valve Index, you've had developers like Anton from H3 VR, who said it's the most comfortable headset they've used. The expanded field of view seems great. The audio is the one thing which some people are a little bit sketchy on, but me, I quite like the concept of that. They're not headphones, they are speakers or balanced mode radiators. That's a thing which was created by a British company, Cambridge Audio. And the benefits of that is they provide a very wide frequency response, flatly dispersed across the whole 180 degrees where the speaker faces out to. And since they float slightly away from your ears, it provides the immersion but no isolation. If you want full isolation, you can plug in headphones or just crank the volume up enough. But I think it's a good solution, and by all accounts the audio is fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that a great deal. Any other details? I do have a little bit more in the note side, just one thing. That field of vision and the increased sweet spot. Now, the things I'm thinking about there are the increased field of vision can come in very handy in providing greater immersion. People who've had a Pimax and can live with the excessive distortion at the greater periphery really enjoy that headset. But it's nice to be able to go from that 100, 110 degrees field of view to approximately 120, 130 with the index, depending on how close you can move backwards or forwards, the lenses within their housing. That sounds like a good thing to me. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, and I did mention briefly that there could be a competitor to the index. News is coming out, or just beginning to come out now, about a redesigned HTC Vive Cosmos, which appears to be a PC headset with possible standalone functionality. And the things which have made it of interest to me, so I'll be watching for this, is built-in audio, but also an adjustable IPD slider. So, sweet spot and visual clarity. If you can adjust the IPD of the lenses to align perfectly with the centre of your pupils, that will be the best experience you can get, optically speaking. And if the lenses have great optical quality, then that will mean that more of your field of view is visible clearly, just moving your eyes around rather than moving your whole head around. And that will help a lot in selling the immersion. Okay, so that's it. Largely, I just wanted to talk about the Valve Index, what I think is going to be a good thing for VR going forward, because, hell, the original headsets came out in 2016. VR hasn't died yet. PlayStation VR, despite the controller flaws of the Move controllers, is still proving fantastically popular. And games like Astrobot and Wipeout in VR, they are some fun experiences. But that's it. Hopefully, soon we'll find out how good the Index is, how the HTC Vive Cosmos may be a competitor. And there's just a couple of things for you to consider going forward if you're looking at getting into VR yourself. So I hope that's been useful. If it has, please let me know. Maybe put a like on the bottom. If you want to subscribe, do so. If you want to private comment or ask a question, do so. Add that one below. And I decided, just as a random thing to finish these videos off, I'm going to do little recommendations of anything that springs to mind. So, the thing I'm going to currently recommend is a film called Arrival. And that stars Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Link provided to the trailer in the comments below. Really enjoy the film. Hopefully you do too. I'll do all sorts of random recommendations at the end of these videos just because I feel like it, so there you go. Hope it's been useful. If it has, please leave a comment, ask questions, anything in the bottom. I'll see you next time.